Okay, I am sitting here today with Alice and Sam of Anglia. You've just celebrated your 30th anniversary, so congratulations. Can you provide a brief overview of Anglia's background and history?
Okay, shall I start with that one?
You start.
Okay. Right, Anglia is an examination board. We offer English exams to international learners of English, mainly overseas. We have been, as you've just mentioned, running in as a subsidiary of Chichester College for 30 years, although actually Anglia existed a little bit before that. So we've been here on our current premises for 30 years. I think our main product is our 10-step examination, step-by-step approach. So we start from very, very low, zero beginner. Generally young learners, doesn't have to be, but they're often quite small children. And then through the 10 steps, incrementally we go step by step, very clear guidelines for teachers to follow. Students know what is expected of them. We think it's quite transparent in that way. We work on a franchise system at this point, which means we are here at the headquarters in Chichester in the UK, but we are the tiny, tiny tip of the iceberg. And the majority of our work is actually carried out through our franchisees on the ground in the countries where the exams take place. So I would say 95% of our exams, maybe more, take place internationally.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a handful in the UK, but it's by far not our biggest market. But I think we reside in somewhere between 30 and 40 countries across the globe.
Wow.
So some really substantial sized markets, South America, Spain, Italy, Netherlands. In fact, the Netherlands is one of our oldest markets, isn't it? They've been with us since almost the beginning. Yeah. So yes, and Cyprus, of course. We have those 5 or 6 markets that have been with us, have been with Anglia for a very long time, and are our largest markets. They either take some of them. Our markets are quite different, aren't they? Some of them take exams every month in every exam window that we offer, and others, like Cyprus, will do one big session a year, and it's a huge session.
And I think the idea is, and how it has been successful over the years, is that we have a bit of a slogan, which is act global, think local. And the idea there is that, okay, the processes, the procedures, the rules, the regulations, they come from here, they come from HQ. Mm-hmm. But actually, I'm not Italian, I'm not Spanish, I'm not Argentinian. I don't know how it works in those countries. So therefore, we use the franchisee in those countries who understands the market on the ground, who understands the education system, because they can be very different. Things like Ministry of Education has contacts with things like that. So we are there to support them, but they are the knowledge on the ground of how it works in their country. So every country where we sell exams, we have that representative, that franchisee, and they are the contact immediately for their customers, I suppose. So we're almost a business to business, and then they are the business to customer. And, it develops a real sense of trust, because I think teachers and ultimately students, but actually teachers, teachers are the linchpin here. They're the ones that are getting their students to take the exams. They like the contact that they can have, the ease of contact with their local franchisee in their country, but they also like, through that, the contact that they have with us, and they do. So we over time develop relationships, not just with the franchisees, but also with the schools and the teachers as well. So that's pretty much an overview. As Sam just said, it actually the whole thing started on the island of Cyprus.
Wow.
And that was, I don't know, maybe 35, 36 years ago. So a lot longer ago. Yeah. And it's changed over time and developed. But what started as a 6-level exam has developed into 10, because you know, English is so massive, and you have to have those steps that are manageable. Students feel they can achieve it. So
definitely,
yeah. But everything, sorry, Sam, everything is then, once the exams are taken, everything is returned here to the UK, whether that's paper-based or online. Everything is marked from here.
So you can imagine how big that is. So this leads us nicely on to where the e-assessment came from. Because so for Cyprus, for instance, they do maybe somewhere between 10, 13,000 exams in their June session, June session. But that's 2 papers. So we have a read, write exam, and we have a listening exam. So that means that there's in excess of 20,000 pieces of paper that arrive at our offices that we have to then unbox, we have to count, then we have to batch, and then we have to send out to markers. And that process alone takes a really long time. So for Anglia to remain competitive in the market, we need to have now found ways to turn these exams around quicker, to turn the results around quicker. But I think what led us, and Alice may tell me if I'm wrong, but I think what led us to Cirrus was actually COVID. You know, COVID hit, and we were working with an online platform prior to this, but not with all of our levels. I believe maybe our business.
Yeah. We had already, we had already identified that, in fact, if you're going to take a business exam, chances are the best way to take it is going to be on a computer. Right. So we already had that in place, which meant that all of our other exams were paper-based, unless it was a reasonable adjustments for a candidate with special educational needs. That was the only exception to that. So all of our exams were paper-based, and then all of a sudden we were like, oh, okay. So, but because we already had that slight familiarity, it wasn't so much of a massive change. It was just pulling a huge kind of tanker into line where we just had a little sailing boat on the wave. So, and so, in fact, fortunately, we already had our feet slightly under the desk.
So we knew, in terms of that. We knew what to expect. But so yes, so we rolled Cirrus out very quickly over those COVID years, and it proved to actually be a great success. And I think a lot of that, I've only worked with Cirrus for the last sort of 12, 18 months. But I have to say the level of training and communication has been second to none. It's been fantastic. The support we get from Matthias and the rest of your team has been fantastic. So what I would say is we're very aware Anglia is always, I think, going to be quite heavily focused on paper. Not all of our markets. Some of the challenges we come up against is some of our markets that are more traditional and have worked with paper for a long time. There's maybe a little resistance to change, and that's something that I need to work hard to overcome with them. But I also think it's logistically having the centres with the equipment in there. So you know, whether some of the countries that we have exams in just physically do not have the IT equipment or the Wi-Fi connection or any of those things available to them. So I think that's been quite a challenge. But more recently, we've done some work with Cirrus, where we've actually done some training and spoken with our franchisees, invited franchisees to the forum to hear about what Cirrus is, what it can offer, how it can help improve things. I mean, with marking, for instance, not having to ship those papers, so me not having to ship boxes over to their country, but then them not having to ship them back, all of those things add to the benefit of what online exams can offer us. I would say that I think, despite the fact that we've been working with Cirrus for a while now, we're probably only teetering on the edge of working with what Cirrus can offer. You know, we know that Cirrus can offer the blueprint for us to develop exams on demand. It's something that we're working hard to develop and work towards. It's just having that resource in Anglia headquarters to actually be able to spend time on that work, developing that question bank. But
right.
I think even in our traditional markets that Sam mentioned there, and some of them are really quite traditional. I mean, they just don't have the facilities to do it.
Right.
But what noticed is that already, even in those markets, when they have perhaps a small session or fast tracks, that's when they're choosing to go that way. And so I think some of the markets will be far more based on online exams. That's where their focus will be. But even if they're not based on, it's still something that interests them, because they can in fact do both.
Yeah,
so
indeed. A lot of the new markets that we're taking on are certainly going to be online exams, thought. So yes, I think logistically the time on marking, the fact that I know that we do use Cirrus's ability to mark some of the questions. However, we do have a human marker go over these, but still it does mean that we're able to access them a lot quicker, the papers, or therefore we're able to get through that marking a lot quicker and then get those results back to our candidates. And that's what makes us, by cutting down that time spent on marking and transit, that's what makes us more competitive in our field, I think.
Yeah, because I was listening to you guys mention, it's mostly abroad and there's all these moving parts and, logistics. And I'm just thinking, wow, all of these exams shipped from all over the world. That just, that sounds, I mean, not only time consuming, but it also sounds like, in logistics, things can go wrong,
And let's just say Brexit has not been great for us.
I was going to say Brexit, COVID, it created a bit of a perfect storm for us, especially when it comes to shipping. We have found that shipping, we're a matter of hours away from the Netherlands, yet shipping to the Netherlands at the moment has just become an absolute nightmare for us, and for them, to be fair, on the return. So it's about us having to make sure that we get those paper orders in sooner to be able to collate those papers, to be able to then ship them earlier, because we know that it's going to get held up at customs.
Right.
So I think it very quickly has shown Anglia that actually we need to move forward. We need to, develop software. We need to work with companies like Cirrus to develop our online exam offering and look at exams on demand. Definitely.
Yeah, because COVID, I think, left a lot of people feeling like, what do we do? There's like, do we just not host exams? Do we, so although, because you had mentioned that there are a lot of organizations that are just very traditional and they just don't have the facilities to be able to do computer exams, online exams, which is totally understandable. And then it's also, there are places in the world that don't have the internet connection, or that might be, a concern, or load shedding, for example, in South Africa. And there's, it's just, it presents a lot of challenge, but having that environment, that online, just the backup at the very least, just to be able to do it, did you face any challenge? I know you'd mentioned, adoption for some might be slow, or organizational resistance, but was there any implementation? Did you face any challenges implementing Cirrus into Anglia examinations?
It's a difficult one for me to comment on because I wasn't here right at the beginning, but I'm going to go with no. The feedback that I've had from the team was actually really positive about that transition. I believe because of the level of training and support that was offered. I mean, I work quite closely with Martin. I'm not sure who the team worked with at that time. But yes, I believe the relationship with then is as it is now, which is a very positive one. And you guys, I believe, gave the team an amount of hours. I think all of our team actually trained on Cirrus. Did you do the training as well?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes, I did. I think yes, I think it's always been quite smooth. But I think something that I'm not, maybe I'm just imagining this, but I don't know. I get the feeling that when COVID hit and everyone was in a bit of a panic and didn't know what to do and how do we take exams, or maybe we don't take exams. And then we had, obviously, it hit our market, as it did, I'm pretty sure every market, it hit us. But what a lot of them did was then wait and played catch up afterwards. So then we came back up a little bit. But what I've noticed now is I think it's taken the time for probably teachers to feel confident enough to proceed with their students taking online exams, because that initial COVID, nobody really knew. My kids had never done online classes, and I'm sure it was the same for everyone else around the world doing Anglia. So they had to get to grips with teaching online. And once they'd done that for a while, everyone started to feel happy about that. And then I think, and that's why I think those traditional markets that I mentioned before are starting to, they haven't got the infrastructure for all of the candidates to do it, but they have the confidence now that some of them can, in situations where they can use it. And I think that's just taken a bit of time to work through. So yeah.
Wow, that's great to hear. And I'm really happy that, the training and the communication has been there. That's very important to us, I mean, because it's a big change. It's not, it's not just a simple software program. It can be a huge organizational change, not just for you, but for, your customers. And so that's.
Sorry, can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
And then I'll stop talking. As I referred to myself earlier on as a dinosaur, and I am a little bit, because Anglia was very much paper-based. And then Cirrus started, and then COVID, and we had more exams coming through. And obviously I mark papers quite a lot as part of my job, and I moderate papers moderate the marking. And I wasn't looking forward to having to do online the marking of the essays on that. But I have to say, I am a 100% convert. Give me a Cirrus paper any day over a handwritten script. So for me, it has just, I really didn't think I would be like that. And it just actually, as soon as you just get used to it, and, took a couple of papers to get used to it, but actually it was a very, very easy transition, despite my initial concerns. So it was
that
very good.
Presumably is also because it's a little quicker, because you can go same question, next candidate.
Quicker. Yeah.
So you can flick through like that. So rather than doing one whole paper, I mean, a lot of markers would do that anyway. Even with a physical paper, they would do that candidate's R1 and then the next candidate's R1. But the whole time you're having to turn pages, pick up the next paper. So you do save real time by marking that online. Absolutely.
I am a convert completely. Yes.
Oh, we like to hear it.
If we can convert Alice, we can convert
exactly. If you can do it with me, then well done. It worked.
Yeah, I am not much of a tech wizard either, so if something is easy, and it usually does take people a little bit of time, practice makes perfect. And, if I can kind of weave those grooves into my brain, then I'll understand it. So it's
a bit like introducing any new type of software, isn't it, really? If it's going to make your life easier, if it means that you're going to have to produce less admin work and save on time, then you're going to buy into it. We all know that the transition period can be a little challenging, because you're always going to get the odd hiccup. But ultimately, if it's going to save time, that's the buy-in for us with our franchises, with the teachers, with the candidates, is that it's a fairly easy system to use. We can turn the grades around a lot quicker. Teachers aren't having to fuss around with boxes of papers, where to store them, and all of these things. It's a matter of candidates have their login details, and and off they go. We start the assessment. It is as easy as that.
Oh, that is so good to hear. That makes me very happy. Yeah, so what has been the biggest benefit for your organization? I know you had mentioned marking, but has there been anything like quantifiable results that you can share with us for the students or for your organization?
I know.
Speed, probably.
Well,
Turnaround.
yeah, I think it is speed. I think it really all does come down to the speed and the turnaround for us. There are some markets that we work with that are very heavily reliant on online exams, and as soon as we're at the point of introducing exams on demand, I mean that opens up a whole new world to Anglia. We just need to make sure that we're ready for that.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately it comes down to speed more than anything.
Awesome.
I think that's the biggest benefit to us.
Yeah, just making things more efficient.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
I mean, for our Italian market, the online exams have been a real game changer for them, and this is where we need to develop on-demand exams in Italy. I mean, Alice knows the market slightly, but what can probably explain about the market slightly easier than I can. But they have competitions or jobs that come out at certain times of the year that will require some form of English language certificate.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily candidates coming directly from schools that are taking these exams. It is Joe Public coming off the street that want to develop a career in teaching that require that piece of paper, that certificate, to be able to go and apply or be a part of any form of interview. And that's why I think it's so popular in the Italian market.
Yeah, so it's also, in places where I know it's a little bit more competitive for jobs. I know in Italy it's been, unemployment, and, it can be very, very important to get that exam, get that certificate, and be able to move on with a career. So yeah, that's great that you guys are helping out in that way. So what do you see the future of exams between Anglia examinations and Cirrus? What do the next 5 years look like?
Well, I think from an operational stance, we need to focus on developing that blueprint for the online exams and developing that question bank. That's something that will really support the growth of Anglia, especially in our European markets, especially in places like Italy, for instance. So for me, I think it would be very much the development of that. Alex, any thoughts?
On that topic, actually, I mean, if you think we've been around for 30 years, we haven't always, but we currently offer 12 different exams a year per level.
Wow.
So there's a window every month. So that's a lot of material that we have, and it's almost, I wouldn't say absolutely every, because some of them are kind of almost like hybrid papers taken from different underused paper. Generally, they are new papers each time. So that's a lot of material that when it's taken, it kind of goes into the archives and is not used again. And while that is a really that's quite it's quite a unique selling point, I think, in the fact that we don't reuse our material. It's actually also quite wasteful, and I think we could reuse it in an online way where it really is randomized. We'd have to have huge banks so that candidates didn't become familiar with, once you have a reading passage is very recognizable. An individual sentence is not so much, but a whole reading passage is very, very recognizable. So we'd need to have a huge bank. But I think the time has come when we've really got to start looking at that, because we want a student in Madrid to be able to walk into an exam center and take an exam on a Monday. And we want another student to be able to take an exam on the Tuesday, but they can't take the same one because it's not secure. So we have to make sure that it's complete, so we did start looking at it before COVID for the business exams. And I think then you realize quite what a massive piece of work it is, because it's not just a question of, okay, I need I don't know, 100 different reading passages. If I've got a set of 10 questions, each question relates to a different grammar point. I've got to get 100 of each of those questions. So it can be, sorry, my screen's just gone funny. So it's big, and it will involve a lot of hours, but I think it's really going to be well invested. Although we have to remember that the time we spend on that, which will be massive, we've also got to run paper exams as well for the markets that require it. So it'll split us a little bit. I think we'll almost be two departments dealing with the same material, but kind of almost two separate.
Yeah, two quite different exams or ways of taking the exam.
Yeah.
But I would be very excited about being able to provide on-demand randomized exams from a bank. That is definitely something that I think we have got to work towards.
I think Anglia is certainly in the year of development. There are other areas, registrations is one for us on development, which will hopefully streamline our processes and make us far more efficient, which will then allow our teams the opportunity to start developing these question banks and working on that. At the moment, we are quite a small team. I mean, it's quite remarkable, really, what we managed to achieve, because we are quite a small team in the UK.
Wow.
But we're just that tiny little tip.
Yes.
So the is underwater somewhere else, and in there.
But when you're talking about all of those markets shipping papers back into us, it is quite a small team that has to deal with the operational process and the logistics of sorting that out. So as much as we can do that, when we're looking at developing Anglia, we have to work really hard to make our systems more streamlined, more efficient, to free up some of that time to be able to move us on to projects that will really support the growth of Anglia, I think, in the future.
Yeah, something scalable.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that's a big one as well. You know, we do talk as a company about being more environmentally friendly and sustainable, and actually cutting down on the shipments, the use of paper. We would be very naive to think that we are ever going to lose paper. I don't know that will happen. I don't know that will happen for Anglia, certainly not in our lifetimes, no. I don't believe, because of the nature of some of the markets and some of the places that we're present in. But I definitely think it's a market that can grow, and other markets will be more interested in us because we offer online exams on demand, quicker turnarounds.
Right. And that brings me to advice. Do you have any advice to other organizations that are looking to switch over to an e-assessment platform?
Do it.
Yeah, I think keep trialing it, and making notes as you go. And I would say, from my own perspective, if something is different, not being resistant to it just because it's different, because it might actually be better. And I think trial and acceptance.
For us, it was very much one particular market. I think it was our Italian market that really swamped the online exams. And so I think the best way to roll it out is not always to roll it out to the masses, to actually start small and grow so that people have faith in your product as well. But I would say, from a customer service point of view, from a communication point of view, we have nothing but positive things to say about our relationship that we have developed with the Cirrus team. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate you sitting down with me and taking time to answer my questions. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
No problem at all.